Welcome to this episode of the Metal Matt Podcast, and today will be a very interesting episode because since, I'm not sure exactly when I did it, but not too long ago, I took a look at the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and I like that trilogy. I think it's a very solid trilogy. The first two are great, third one is decent, but yeah, I think that trilogy is pretty good. But some people have been asking me what I think of the new series that's going on right now, what I think of the Amazing Spider-Man films. Well, that's what I'm going to be taking a look at today. I'll be taking a look at this Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. But first, it's time for a couple of things to do. First, I'm going to do my usual shout-outs. Shout out to Chucky's Playground, amazing forum, and it's just amazing place to be. And today, the standalone Chucky'sWebsite.com has launched. It is live, it is up and running, and this is a very exciting day for all of us on the playground. It's really the first time in a very long time that we've had any type of standalone site for everything Chucky. And it's really, really exciting. We're definitely looking forward to the future. We're going to be adding a lot more things as we go along. And it's really fun, and it's going to be really, really cool. So definitely stick with us, definitely visit the site, because we got plenty more planned. And we can't wait for the future, what the future will hold. So I also want to give a shout out to my friend Spanky and G, their podcast Movie Mayhem. It's great. Go listen to it. It is just awesome. And so now it's time. Oh, one more thing. AC/DC have announced a brand new album. And it will be coming out December 2nd, at least in North America anyway. And it's called Rock or Bust. And that's kind of a cliche title, at least for AC/DC anyway, but nevertheless, it's pretty interesting. I think this weekend that their song "Play Ball" will be, we'll be able to hear that. And I'm not a huge fan of AC/DC. I like a handful of their songs, but every album kind of just sounds the same. But nevertheless, I'm interested to hear this album. It ought to be pretty interesting. So now it is time to shoot the shuffle. At number 1, You're Crazy by Guns N' Roses from Lies. This is an acoustic version of You're Crazy, which was off of Appetite for Destruction. And I think I actually like this acoustic version more than the normal version. Number 2, Catholic Girls by Frank Zappa from Joe's Garage. Pretty funny song off Joe's Garage. This is a great concept album. Number 3, Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix Experience from Are You Experience. Pretty good classic rock song from the Hendrix. Number 4, Briefcase Full of Guts by Death Clock from the Death album. A really good death metal song. Death Clock is a really good virtual band. They're not even technically a real band, really. They're from a TV show called Metalocalypse, which is a really good show. But it's still pretty cool. Number 5, Holiday in Cambodia by Dead Kennedys from Fresh Fruit for Rotten Vegetables. This one is a pretty awesome punk song. It kind of takes a while to get started, and the production isn't all that hot. But other than that, it's pretty cool. Number 6, Bloodlines by Death Clock from the Death album 2. This is an alright song. Not the best, but not the worst either. Number 7, Never Ending Heal by King Diamond from Give Me Your Soul, Please. King Diamond's latest album, and it's pretty good. Number 8, Chiquita by Aerosmith from Nine to Ruts. Not one of the more memorable songs, at least from that album, but it's still interesting. Number 9, Mr. Blackwell by Kiss from Music from the Elder. probably the only good song from the music from the Elder album. It's pretty good. And I might take a look at Kiss' entire discography sometime in the future. And finally, number 10, Desire by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts from Up Your Alley. Pretty good song from a very good Joan Jett album. So that's all for Shoot the Shuffle, and now it is time to talk about the Amazing Spider-Man trilogy. And the Amazing Spider-Man, this one really felt really quick. Like, it felt too soon for a reboot. You know, because this comes like 5 years after Spider-Man 3. Like, why was it so sudden? It was just so sudden and so soon. It just felt too soon for something like that. And I think I heard, like, Sony only made it so they could retain the rights to the character. Which, honestly, that wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. It seems like something that they would do. And I think, like, a similar thing happened to, like, the Hellraiser series. Whoever owns the rights to the Hellraiser series, they did that Hellraiser Revelations movie a couple years ago just so they could retain the rights to it. And speaking of Hellraiser, that might be a series I might look at sometime in the future. Wink, wink. But anyway, long story short, it just felt way too soon for a reboot. And when I heard about it, I wasn't really looking forward to it. Like, I was a Spider-Man fan, but I just felt like it was too soon for a remake. Not to mention the fact that I just felt way too attached to the original trilogy. Like, the original trilogy, you know, I grew up with that series. You know what I mean? And so I just didn't think that it would hold a candle to the original. And I pretty much avoided it for a few years because I just didn't want to be disappointed. And I didn't want to watch it. So I just kind of avoided it for a few years. Then when Spider-Man 2 came out, well, Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's give it a watch and let's see. So I watched it, and it was pretty much what I expected it to be. It's just not that great. And I'll just talk about the story first. And it's basically, you know, your average Spider-Man story. It tries to kind of play with Peter's parents. Like, it kind of has like a backstory for Peter's parents. I don't really care about that, honestly. I never really cared about Peter's parents to begin with. So, that could have been left out. But they're trying to do something different, so whatever. So, Peter attends Midtown Science High School, and he's caught the attention of Gwen Stacy. And Mary Jane is not in this film, which honestly kind of confused me for a little bit. But I'm fine with it. And he goes to Oscorp, and he enters a lab where a biocapable is under development, and it's like genetically modified spiders, and one of them bites him, and he gets spider-like abilities and stuff like that. And he also comes across Dr. Kurt Connors, who happens to have worked with Peter's dad. And this is the one thing about the Spider-Man villains that I always thought were very I'm not sure what I'm looking for, but just like, it felt really weird. It just felt really weird that all the villains in Spider-Man just happened to be connected to Peter. Like, in the first film, Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin was the best friend of Peter's best friend, Norman, Harry, and you know, kind of like a father figure to Peter in some ways. So that was it. And Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock was kind of a hero of Peter's in some ways. And 3, Eddie Brock / Venom works with Peter. He wants revenge because he gets him fired. And Sandman killed Peter's uncle. And Harry Osborn / New Goblin, obvious. And it's just like, it seems like every villain in the Spider-Man series had some type of personal connection to Peter. And I always found that to be kind of weird. But anyway, and Connors is being pressed by a superior to devise a cure for the dying Norman Osborn, and that really angered me. Like, why are you not showing Norman Osborn in this series? Like, that just kind of angered me. But anyway, he needs to devise a cure for, and Peter, tries to get used to his powers. And the thing that I hated in this film, the fact that Peter does a terrible job at hiding his secret identity. Like, it is so, okay. Like, he's playing a basketball challenge against Flash Thompson, and he jumps, and he shatters the backboard. Like, no one found that odd. Like, he gets to the principal's office and stuff, but, like, no one else found that odd. And, like, later on in the movie, he, like, catches a football, and he throws it back, and he, like, bends, like, I don't know what that's called, like, the pole for the touchdown. I don't watch football, so I don't know what that's called, but, the yellow pole thing, I don't know what that's called, but, he throws it, and that it bends it, like, no one finds that odd. Like, I don't know. Like, he just does a terrible job. Not to mention the fact that he's pretty much unmasked whenever he battles. And, like, just to drive that point home, on the back of the DVD, he is shown in his Spider-Man costume without his mask. Like, I don't know. That just really bothers me. Like, it really does. Like, I don't know. And, like, in the original series, Peter at least had a reason to be unmasked. Either he lost his mask, or it was, like, destroyed. And the one that I turned to, the scene that I turned to when explaining this is in the second one, when he loses his mask when he's trying to stop the train from going off the tracks. Or subway, or whatever it's called, I don't know. But, he stops it, he's exhausted, and the people lay him down, and they see him unmasked. And when Peter comes to, he actually is worried that his mask is off. He is worried that somebody will tell his secret identity. And even some kids promise that they won't tell people his secret identity. Not in here, because in a scene in this movie, Spider-Man actually takes off his mask. So, because I guess they try to explain it that the kid has no idea who he is. So he takes off his mask and shows that he's just a teenager. And, like, come on, man. But anyway, that's just something that bothers me personally. I just don't like that. And I think he does a terrible job at keeping his identity a secret. But anyway, back to the story. That was just me going off on a little rant for a second. But anyway, Peter tries to buy chocolate milk at a nearby deli. Unfortunately, Peter's 2 cents short, so the cashier won't. And a thief suddenly raids the store, and Peter doesn't really care. But Uncle Ben actually attempts to stop the thief, which is like, come on, that is like the dumbest thing ever. And he gets killed. And Uncle Ben, in this one, he is just, he's not as inspiring as the original. I remember Uncle Ben from the original. With this one, I really do not remember anything he said. Like, he doesn't necessarily say, with great power comes great responsibility. But he says it in a different way. because it's a reboot, so they're doing everything different. Just like, I don't even remember exactly what he even says. It was like, you got more obligation, not just, nah, I don't remember. Not just choice, responsibility, or something along the lines of that. I don't know. I phased out. I got kind of zoned out by the time of that movie, by the scene in that movie. But anyway, Peter uses his new abilities to hunt criminals, and he ends up adding the spandex suit and the mask, and he builds mechanical devices. And at this time, he kind of starts dating Gwen Stacy, and he's invited to dinner to their house, and he comes across George Stacy, Gwen's father, who's like the police chief, and he's played by Dennis Leary. And the thing about this character, and this might just be me, but I hated this character. And like, I don't know if that's just me, or if other people feel this way as well, but I just hated him. Like, I don't know why, but he just seemed like a real jerk, And like, I don't know. There's just something about him just doesn't click. He just seems really unlikable. And he argues with Peter about Spider-Man's motives and whether they think he's a good guy or a bad guy, whether he's helping people or harming people, just stuff like that. And Connors decides to test like a drug on himself, and under the guise of a flu shot, and he finds that his missing arm has regenerated. However, his skin turns green and scaly, and he has become a hybrid of lizard and man. And he tosses cars and just stuff like that. And Spider-Man battles a lizard in the sewers, and that's actually a pretty cool battle. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I hate this movie. Like, I wouldn't say I hate it, but I just really dislike it. But I will give the film credit. Its action scenes are fine. They're solid action scenes. They're really good. They're really well done. So I'm not a huge fan of this movie, but the action scenes are well done in this movie, I will say. So Spider-Man battles the lizard. And the lizard plans to make all humans lizard-like by releasing a chemical cloud from Oscorp's tower. And they battle on the roof of Oscorp Tower, and the lizard mortally wounds Captain Stacy. And Captain Stacy makes Peter promise to keep Gwen safe by leaving her out of it. And he kind of discovers that Peter is Spider-Man. And Connors is arrested and taken to jail. And then, and Peter, Gwen's just kind of start seeing each other secretly, I guess. I really don't know. But Lizard is in the cell. And this happens during the credits. And this is kind of one thing that kind of bugged me about movies nowadays. It seems like a lot of movies nowadays either have during credit scenes or post credit scenes. I really don't get that. Like, sometimes it works, other times it's just like, whatever. But it's like a man in the shadows asking Connors if Peter knows the truth about his father's. He replies no, and he demands that Peter be left alone before the stranger disappears. So that's pretty much The Amazing Spider-Man. And overall, I just did not like this movie. I just didn't. Now, I found Peter to be very unlikable, too. Like, I found him to be very unlikable. And there's a great web series called Honest Trailers, where they kind of nitpick, movies, but they really do bring up good points about them. And they did one on this movie, and the narrator's like, watch Spider-Man act like a jerk every chance he gets. And like, that's really true. And they show a clip where Spider-Man's like telling the police, I did 85% of your job 85% of your job. And it's like, like the original Spider-Man, Spider-Man would never say anything like that, you know. But now there were moments in this film that I did like. Like I did like the Gwen Stacy character. I thought she was fine, you know. And again, like I said, I like the action sequences. They were pretty good. Other than that, I couldn't really find a lot to like about this movie. It's just it just felt way too soon for a reboot, and it's just I just did not like it. I just did not like it. So, after that, we get The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And with this one, I watched this one after The Amazing Spider-Man 1. And after watching The Amazing Spider-Man 1, I really was not looking forward to this movie. Especially after seeing Spider-Man, the first one. So, like, you know what? I hope that this film is not as bad as the first one. I really hope that this film is good. And as it turns out, I actually liked it. I did. I really did like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And it was a very pleasant surprise. It was something that I wasn't expecting to like. But it ended up being pretty good, you know. And it's kind of weird how I disliked the first film so much. Yet I do really like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, the story is, they begin with a prologue about Peter's parents. And, again, I just don't care about that one. But in the present, he fights crime as Spider-Man. And at the beginning of the movie, he fights a character called Alexei however you pronounce that. I really don't know. But anyway, he's the Rhino. There's really no hiding that. He becomes the Rhino at the end of the movie. I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to bother hiding spoilers. You know how I am. And so, spoilers ahead. Anyway, he fights the Rhino, and it's an okay battle. The thing I hate about the Rhino in this one is that he's only in it for 5 minutes. Like, he really does not have a lot of screen time. But, whatever. So, he still sees... he actually rescues Max Dillon, who works for Oscorp. And, the two decide to break up by insisting that he needs to keep his vow to her father. And Harry Osborn actually returns and sees his terminally ill father, Norman. And Norman explains that his illness is actually hereditary, and Harry could very much develop it. And the next day after that, Norman dies. Harry's appointed the new Oscorp CEO. And Max starts to idolize Spider-Man, and he kind of thinks that they become best friends. And he's tending to maintenance in the Oscorp laboratory. He gets electrocuted, and he falls into a tank of genetically modified electric eels. And he gets mutated into like electric generator, and he becomes Electro. And the thing about Electro in this movie, I really like Electro in this movie. Now, a lot of people thought he was like a decent villain. I thought he was pretty good. Now, with that said, there were times in this movie where he reminded me of the Riddler from Batman Forever. Like, there were times when that kept happening. And it was like, okay, this is pretty much the Riddler in Batman Forever. But then again, I actually like Batman Forever, so, yeah. But, anyway, he wanders in the town square, and he accidentally causes a blackout. Spider-Man attempts to calm him down. And I really love the Times Square battle between Electro and Spider-Man. And by the way, before I go any further, I just want to say that Spider-Man in this film is way more likable than he was in the first film, so that was an improvement. But anyway, the battle in Times Square between Electro and Spider-Man is just awesome. It's just really, really cool. And it's just a really awesome battle, you know. So he's taking the Ravencroft Institute. So, and Harry actually begins to develop his father's illness. And he deduces that Spider-Man's blood will save him. And Peter, Spider-Man doesn't, because he's unsure of what effects. But he doesn't realize he's unsure of what effects a transfusion would have. And Harry begins to hate Spider-Man, and they frame Harry for covering up Max's accident and remove him as CEO. And he works with Max to get inside the Oscorp building, and he finds a suit of armor made by Norman and venom from genetically altered spiders. And the venom actually accelerates his illness, and he transforms into a goblin-like creature, aka the Green Goblin. And the suit's built-in emergency protocol actually restores his health. And Peter, meanwhile, actually finds out the truth about his father. And Gwen, meanwhile, is getting a scholarship from Oxford, and she's leaving for Britain. And he catches her, professors as well, blah, blah, blah. Max causes another blackout. And the final battle between Spider-Man and Electro is really cool, but there were times when I really felt like I was just watching the cartoon. Like, it really did feel like I was just watching a cartoon series of The Amazing Spider-Man, because it really felt like a lot of the battle was done in CGI. Like, I don't know, it just felt like really weird to watch, you know. Just felt like I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon show. But, I mean, it looks good, I mean, don't get me wrong, but it just felt like I was watching a cartoon more than anything else. But they overrode Max's body, and they kill him. And Harry arrives equipped with Norman's armor and weaponry. And he figures out Spider-Man's shroud, and he kidnaps Stacy, and he fights Spider-Man at the top of the clock tower. Now, spoiler alert, and he attempts to save Gwen, but she falls to her death. And he gives up being Spider-Man. He kind of becomes kind of emo in some ways. But Harry heals from his transformation at Ravencroft. And someone visits him, and he breaks Rhino out of prison. And Spider-Man returns to battle him as Spider-Man returns to battle the Rhino. So I guess the Rhino is going to be coming back in the third one. I don't know. I'd like to think so, because he barely got any screen time. So, but yeah, overall, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is it's pretty good. It was certainly better than I was expecting it to be. One problem that a lot of people seem to have was that they felt that the story was way too much, that they had too much main characters. And I tend to kind of agree with that. Like, Rhino, he really didn't need to be in there at all. Like, he really didn't need to be there. And he had very little screen time anyway. And Green Goblin, he didn't necessarily have to be there. But, you know, I was fine with him. The character was fine. You know, better than I was expecting it to be. But, yeah. So, I actually had very little problems with this film. I thought it was a fine movie, you know. It was certainly better than the first one. It was a huge improvement over the first one. So, yeah, I like the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So that's it for the Amazing Spider-Man series. And overall, the series for me is kind of a mixed bag. I really dislike the first one, but I really do like the second one. So it's definitely a mixed bag for me. And now I will be interested to check out the third one whenever they end up making it. So that's all for this episode. Hope you enjoyed. And when I come back on Friday, we'll be taking a look at Nickelback's discography. This is going to be an interesting one, right? We'll see you Friday.